Chapter 14. What's on Telly? Anne's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm as she looked around the opulent living room. I still can't get over how well presented the whole place is. The decor is stunning. It's like living in a work of art. Nick chuckled, enjoying her excitement. I'm glad you like it. What do you think of your room? She nodded eagerly, then paused, her expression shifting to one of delighted disbelief. It's incredible. Honestly, it looks like something out of an advert for a 5-star hotel. I never imagined moving from our home in Stevenage to a mansion like this. It's not exactly how I pictured starting the new year. James added his thoughts, settling into one of the plush armchairs. It feels surreal, doesn't it? The space, the art, everything's so grand. It's like we've stepped into another world. Nick smiled, warmth blooming in his chest at their shared awe. I know what you mean. It's a massive change for all of us. But I hope it'll start to feel like home soon. James leaned back, eyes scanning the room with visible appreciation. I've got to say, Nick, I'm seriously impressed by what this mansion has to offer, but I can't help but notice something. Is it missing a gym or a swimming pool? Before Nick could answer, Apollo's voice chimed in smoothly from the ceiling speakers. Actually, Mr. Hunter, the mansion does include an underground fitness center. You can access it by walking through the back gardens and taking the stairs to your left. James lit up like a child in a sweet shop. Really? What about a swimming pool? The pool is also located underground, Apollo replied with flawless precision. However, with the correct settings, it can be elevated outdoors should you prefer open-air swimming. James let out a low whistle, visibly impressed. Cheers, Apollo. I'll definitely be checking that out tomorrow. Nick couldn't help but grin at his friend's enthusiasm. It was important to him that they felt welcome, maybe even happy, for the first time in a while. Spotting the remote on the counter between the sofas, Nick picked it up and pressed the power button. The TV sprang to life. Not a typical screen, but a breathtaking 360-degree projection that hovered like a luminous cylinder in the center of the room. Wherever anyone sat, they had an unobstructed view of the content. The projection's quality was nothing short of astonishing. With a resolution of 400K, the image displayed in razor-sharp clarity, colors bursting to life in vivid cinematic brilliance. It felt as though the scenes on screen were part of the room itself, so real they could be reached out and touched. The interface offered over 1,000 channels from around the world, spanning entertainment, sports, education, and global news. A built-in translation, I, ensured that any foreign program could be watched with dubbed audio or subtitles in real time, accommodating all languages with seamless integration. The first program to appear on screen was Neon Nights, a gritty documentary series that followed embedded film crews riding along with police officers across the British counties as they apprehended criminals in real time. While broadcast privacy laws mandated the blurring of officers' faces and removal of their names to protect their identities, the suspects were fully exposed, names, faces, and all. The show had earned high ratings and higher controversy. Civil rights groups had accused the producers of glamorizing police brutality. There were also murmurs, increasingly difficult to ignore, about officers allegedly planting evidence or using excessive force, their anonymity breeding a dangerous lack of accountability. Nick grimaced. Yeah, I've seen this before. Makes me sick, honestly. They act like it's entertainment. Without another word, he flicked the channel. The image shifted to Darknet, a moody, unsettling anthology series exploring horror stories born from mankind's reliance on technology. Each episode was a cautionary tale, AI gone rogue, digital identities consumed, smart homes becoming prisons. The intro alone, with its static-infused visuals and eerie voiceover, set a chilling tone. Now this, said James with a grin, is more like it. He leaned forward, visibly excited. Anne and I used to watch this all the time growing up. Mum would warn us not to become too dependent on tech, so we learned to cook, clean, do repairs, all by hand. Guess she wanted us to survive, even if the power went out forever. Then he tilted his head upward, grinning cheekily. No offence, Apollo. None taken, Mr. Hunter, came the AI's dry but good-natured reply. Survivability is a commendable skill. I would, however, recommend keeping the power on. They laughed, and for a moment, the mansion felt less like a fortress and more like a home. Hey, Nick, Anne said, her tone thoughtful. This TV gets international channels, right? Can you switch to one from China? I want to see what's airing back home. Nick navigated the menu, scrolling through a grid of country flags and language options until he selected a Mandarin language news channel. The screen filled with a crisply dressed anchor standing in front of a 3D model of a spacecraft. Subtitles translated her words in real time. The UAA has confirmed the launch of the Solace deep space probe in an effort to locate remnants of the Exodus, the legendary colony vessel that vanished over a century ago. The mission, long shrouded in myth and speculation, remains one of humanity's greatest unsolved space enigmas. The room grew quieter, the documentary-style footage shifting to archival images of the Exodus. A sleek, silver-winged spacecraft launched during the peak of the Grand War. Its mission: to scout habitable worlds as Earth faced potential collapse. I remember learning about this in science class, Nick murmured, eyes fixed on the display. They launched Exodus during the worst of the war, just in case we needed to start over somewhere else. Anne leaned forward, absorbed. It's haunting, isn't it? Over 100 years and no one knows what happened. No distress calls, no wreckage, just silence. James folded his arms, his usual grin absent. You've got to feel for their families, knowing they're just gone, no graves, no closure, just hope that eventually fades into legend. I'm going to put on the local news, Nick said, reaching for the remote. With a quick flick through the interface, he switched to EMD News, the nation's most watched evening broadcast. The screen brightened to reveal Nina Clutton, a poised and captivating presenter with striking blue eyes, clad in a sleek lace dress that contrasted elegantly with her bold makeup. Her voice carried a polished confidence as she transitioned seamlessly between headlines. Thank you for that update, Luke, she concluded, before her expression turned somber. Now, to a heartbreaking story developing in West London. Tragedy struck in Hammersmith today as Dr. Elijah Dawes, his wife, and their 3-year-old daughter were found murdered in their home. The assailant has been identified as Ben Reading, a former inmate who escaped during the Christmas riot at Holloway Secure Detention Centre. Reading, previously incarcerated on charges of assault and attempted murder, reportedly used an unlicensed blade in the attack. Early footage shows him fleeing the Dawes residence after what authorities are calling a targeted and brutal assault. Investigators are still searching for a motive and believe Adonis may have played a role in Reading's extreme aggression. Reading remains at large. The public is advised to avoid contact and alert authorities if seen. The broadcast cut to grainy CCTV footage. Reading sprinting through a dim street, half naked, pupils dilated, his movements twitchy and erratic. A primal rage radiated from the screen. A heavy silence settled over the room. "That's fucking sick," Anne muttered, her voice low and horrified. "That poor family. I can't even imagine what they must have gone through." James nodded grimly. "It's terrifying. If he was on Adonis, it explains a lot, but also makes it worse. That stuff turns people into monsters." Nick said nothing. His jaw tensed. He remembered Reading. He remembered the riot, and he knew too well who was responsible. The Lost, the gang pushing Adonis far beyond the shadows of the slum district. His blood simmered at the thought of more innocent lives taken, more children orphaned because of their poison, because he hadn't done more. He stood suddenly, placing the remote on the table with quiet intent. "Excuse me. It's been a long day. I should get some sleep." Anne glanced up, concern flashing briefly across her face. "All right, Nick. We'll hang around a bit longer before heading to bed." Both Anne and James bid Nick good night as he stepped out of the living room, but instead of heading upstairs to his bedroom, Nick turned and made his way down the corridor towards his uncle's office. His pace was purposeful, his thoughts already set on the task ahead. Once inside the office, he locked the door behind him, ensuring privacy. The familiar floorboard creaked beneath his weight as he stepped onto the hidden platform embedded in the polished floor. "Apollo, take me down," Nick commanded, his voice calm but laced with steely resolve. "Understood, sir," Apollo replied smoothly as the platform began its silent descent into the depths below. As they moved, the AI's voice returned, now slightly inquisitive. "Might I ask what your objective is this evening?" Nick's gaze dropped to the nanolinker on his wrist, its interface softly glowing. "William told me that if I want to bring the scum of London to justice, I can't do it as Nick Adams." He tightened his fist. "But Zeus is a different story." The lift eased to a stop within the sprawling underground base, once a forgotten tube station, now transformed into a state-of-the-art command center. Without hesitation, Nick made his way to the communications room, where the Midas database awaited with cold, clinical efficiency. "Apollo," he said, stepping into the softly lit chamber, "give me everything you've got on Ben Reading." Within seconds, files materialized on the holographic display. Thousands of entries, case notes, surveillance footage, psychiatric evaluations. Nick scanned through the data, his brow furrowing, as the full weight of Ben's past came into view. Ben Reading had been raised in a crucible of pain, bullied at school, beaten at home. His father, a violent alcoholic, frequently berated him, calling him a sissy for not standing up for himself. The abuse continued until one night, when 9-year-old Ben snapped. He shot his father 6 times, 2 bullets to the face, 1 to the arm, and 3 more in the back as the man tried to crawl away. Due to his age, Ben's identity had been protected. The state had hoped he could be rehabilitated. Enter Dr. Elijah Dawes, the man who believed even the most broken souls could be saved. He had taken Ben under his care and monitored his recovery, carefully administering medication and therapy to manage his violent impulses. But despite Dawes' best efforts, Ben turned to something else: Adonis. The drug gave him the strength and confidence he lacked, at a monstrous cost. Its side effects were catastrophic: explosive rage, grotesque muscle inflation, and heart strain so severe it had killed others in their 20s. When Dawes discovered the truth, he was heartbroken, but he did his duty and alerted the authorities. Weeks later, CCTV footage caught Ben, under the influence of Adonis, savagely beating a restaurant manager over a billing dispute. It took 30 armed officers to bring him down. One of them described the encounter as like fighting a rabid bear wearing body armor. The manager survived, but was left permanently blinded and horrifically scarred. During the trial, Dr. Dawes had taken the stand, his testimony damning. He recounted Ben's theft of medication, violent outbursts during sessions, and refusal to embrace recovery. It was then, in full view of the courtroom, that Ben made his chilling vow. "If I ever get out, I'll make Dawes pay. I'll make him watch." Once he'd seen enough, Nick shut down the computer. The dim, blue light from the holographic display faded, leaving him in the quiet hum of the underground base. His resolve solidified into unwavering determination. "I guess we know why he killed the doctor," he muttered to himself, jaw clenched. "But he's only brought this on himself. And now that he's had his revenge, I don't think he's going to stop. I have to end this before more innocent lives are lost." Turning from the terminal, Nick addressed Apollo, his voice low and focused. "Where is Ben reading now?" "Reading is still located within the Hammersmith district," Apollo replied promptly. "I will continue to provide live updates on his position, allowing you to intercept him with maximum efficiency." Nick nodded once. "Good." Without hesitation, he strode towards the Centaur 32X, the superbike gleaming beneath the station's soft overhead lights. Engineered for extreme maneuverability and speed, the machine was as much a predator as its rider. He stopped beside it, raised his left fist, and shouted with clarity and conviction, "Zeus!" At his command, the silver nanomites surged from the nanolinker, cascading across his body like a wave of liquid metal. Within seconds, Nick Adams vanished, replaced by the imposing, armoured figure of Zeus. He swung his leg over the bike and gripped the handlebars, the Centaur roaring to life beneath him. The digital HUD lit up inside his visor, a crisp GPS overlay locking onto readings coordinates. Zeus rocketed down the abandoned tunnels beneath the city, his speed a blur through the subterranean gloom. The HUD provided a continuous stream of directional arrows and hazard alerts, ensuring he avoided any live transport lines or maintenance crews. Apollo's voice resonated in his helmet. "I've uplinked CCTV and biometric tracking to your interface. Reading is moving on foot. He appears erratic, likely still under the influence of Adonis." "Understood," Zeus responded, his tone sharp with purpose. "Once I've secured him, call the police and give them the pickup coordinates. I'll be out of there before they arrive.